Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're testing my mental fortitude and sheer willpower as I try to climb to first place in my own favorite chess variant, Cross Derby, where the kings are stuck in corners and knights race to give checkmate. Let's dive in. Okay, the first thing to look at is where I am on the leaderboard currently, and as it stands, I'm actually still in the same place I was after the last episode. I'm rated 2001 in 4th place, so not on the podium, but definitely within striking distance of 3rd place, 2nd place, and maybe 1st place. We'll see how much progress we actually make in this episode. Let's get started with game number 1. All right, we do get paired with a 1684 rated opponent. We get f4, f5. This is the opening that I have slid with in the past. For some reason, now I'm rated 1970. I'm not totally sure why that is the case. Let's start just developing our pieces. I think it's because Cross Derby must be like an amalgamation of 2 other ratings. I don't know what I could possibly be rated more than 2000 in, but we get knight to f7. Again, the goal is to get to one of these 2 squares, so the fact that g6 is already weak is super interesting to me. So I'll start with g4, and I guess eventually my goal would be to get a knight to h4 or e5. The most natural way to do that is just like knight to f3, so we'll continue with that. And eventually we'd like to sort of layer up our pieces, so have like multiple knights on e5, so they can sort of like replace each other one after the other and have enough pressure to actually capture on g6 in the end. It's also worth noting that as long as the opponent isn't making any moves on our side of the board, we might not be making perfect moves, right, in how they play c5. We might not be making perfect moves on their side of the board, but as long as we're causing some sort of mayhem and not actually losing material, usually that's a good sign for us. Let's continue with knight to e3, and I have this interesting idea of like knight d3, knight c4, knight e5, and the eventual final move would be knight to h4, and hopefully the pressure on these 2 squares is overwhelming. Again, as a refresher, I know this is my favorite variant, but a lot of you guys don't follow it, which is totally okay, but ultimately one of your knights has to land on f6 or g6. That is the only way to checkmate your opponent. We do get rather pawn to d6, which is interesting. They are holding down e5, which is an important square to hold on to for certain. Let's go ahead and take on f5 right away, and then play knight to h4 with the idea that if we're met with g5, f5 would be hanging, whereas if we don't take, then they have those 2 pawns protecting, and knight to h4, knight f5 isn't possible. Right, they do take back. Now knight to h4 is totally sound, because even if we do get met with g5, we can just take on f5, and a free pawn is a free pawn. We do get knight to d6. I'm not really sure how I continue to make progress here. The opponent's done a very nice job of huddling down in the position. I guess the natural solution is just keep developing even more knights, so we'll start there. And eventually, there has to be some way that we can break in. We get knight to f6. Ooh, and we're down to almost a minute. Not the best time management ever. Let's try knight to c4, because the problem is, as much as I don't want to play on their side of the board, they have so many knights just right next to the king that it's kind of difficult to see a way in other than sort of taking the out route and eventually working our way back into the position. I think I've completely made up a word there with out route, but we'll go ahead and pretend like that's standard terminology. Okay, we do get met with b5, which makes sense. I suppose there's no point in shying away now. We'll go right in with knight to b6. I mean, it's not like we're going to get targeted by a piece and get trapped. We can only get targeted by another knight, at which point we can either trade or defend the knight again. We are down to 40 seconds though. I'd like to not enter a time scramble. Okay, the opponent's time is starting to even out with our own, which is really good news. We get knight to e4. We're also getting more aggressive moves. I suppose, I guess we can just take, I don't know. I'm super low on time now. Let me focus up here for just a moment. Okay, opponent down to 6 seconds now. They're gonna have to make a decision quick. Okay, they move the knight back. We're just gonna continue to advance. I think we're gonna be able to run away with the flag, which is a little bit of a dirty way to win, but a win is a win. I'll go ahead and just take. Knight b6 seems okay. They do take back, but they're the one under time trouble. So if we can just finesse a mate, I think we'll be in a good spot here. We're setting up a fork that I do think is unstoppable. Yeah, because now we have 2 different mates, and we've traded off enough knights that there's no way to defend both. So we do get the flag from the opponent, and we get 9 points of rating. We'll go ahead and line ourselves up for the next game. Great game by the opponent, by the way. I mean, they're rated 1680 at the moment, but I can't imagine they'll be rated 1680 for much longer. That was a lot of pressure. I mean, I guess it wasn't even pressure. It was more so they kept really cool under pressure, so there was no clear way to break through the position. And ultimately that led to the game really like hitting the brakes like 10 to 15 moves in, and then it was sort of like slow maneuvering, but the time started ticking down, and at some point you sort of just have to commit to to it. And as much as I would have loved to have commentated that last part of the game, I had to focus up for that time scramble. That was very well done by the opponent. So we have one victory under our belt. We'll see if we can get queued up with another one. All right, we get queued up again, this time against a 1480 rated opponent, which means one of two things. We'll have a relatively smooth victory, or we're gonna get totally bamboozled out of a severe amount of rating. We'll try to make it the first one, but I won't deny that the odds of the second one are not necessarily slim. We get knight to c6. I guess we can just dump the knight on h4 right away. It's a little bit of a lazy solution, kind of invites knight to d4. I'm not sure how excited I am. Oh, we get the resignation. Okay, cool. I'll take 4 free points of rating. Don't mind if I do. While we wait to get queued up again, what should I have done here? I guess knight to e3 probably would have been the most sound solution, because you still have somebody on c2, right? That's the problem with developing knight f3, knight h4 so quickly, is that knight normally looks at c2, but loses sight of it as soon as it moves to f3. So any sort of d4 or even b4 movement would target that square. So I guess knight to e3 has to follow. It's hard to boot that knight because the opponent's knight itself is on d4, so it's really hard to kick that knight out, and it has a replacement anyways. So I guess that's kind of sound. Yeah, knight to e3 probably is the most sound way to go about that. We'll see if we get paired up again. All right, game number 3, the highest rated opponent so far at 1792 starts with the exact same opening that we use. I'm going to assume this is some kind of theory. Okay, they go knight to f2. We'll sort of mirror this behavior. Yeah, that's exactly our opening. Nice. I say our opening like like I invented it or something, but it seems to be the running theory, at least among the higher rated cross derby players. We get knight g4 looking for h6, looking for f7. I could hold on to the pawn. Do I really feel the need to? Not particularly. I'm actually just going to play d5 and then knight d6. I feel like I have sufficient control over that square that I should be okay. We get knight to e5. Ooh, interesting. I could trade, then the recapture, knight d6, and then eventually f6 might even become possible because we still have eyes on g6. Even though I really like knight to a5, I mean, there's mate on the board right away, so I don't really have a choice but to take. If they recapture with the pawn, that'd be really interesting because it would sort of inhibit knight to d6 with the defense of f7. But if they take with the knight, it immediately targets the pawn. So we'll see which way they decide to take this. Okay, they do take with the knight, so I really have no choice but to run to the defense of that pawn. And I guess my counter threat here is knight b5, knight a3. Like, the sooner I can get that on the board, the sooner I actually have some species of counterplay, because I can't really just let my opponent run wild with their attack. Luckily, they seem to be insisting on using the same single knight for the attack, so it won't carry as much weight as it probably would if they like developed more pieces. I'll go ahead and take and threaten mate right away. I mean, they're trying to coordinate knight to e5, knight h6, looking at f7, which is very sound. I mean, that would be quite difficult to defend against, but now you can see they sort of have to run back and play defense. Now the question is, how do I stack more pressure on this position? I guess knight to e6, looking for knight to d4, not only looks at c2, but also looks at b3 in some universe, although it's not that hard to stop me from getting to d4. I think just in general, putting more pressure on the position is a valid approach. We've also managed to stay up on time, which is a victory in and of itself. Yeah, we do get e3, which is probably the most natural way to defend against that. We're going to continue with c4, and my idea is now actually an idea that I hadn't seen when I originally played knight to e6, but now is more apparent to me with the move on the board, is knight to c5, because how do you defend b3? You need a knight on d4, and currently there is no white knight that can land itself on d4. And that's another good argument for just making generally attacking moves. Developing / attacking moves is you don't necessarily need to see the idea before it happens, but as long as you're continuously making progress in the direction of either developing or directly attacking the king, the ideas will sort of start to just kind of appear on the board themselves. Okay, we do get b4. They obviously understand what we're looking for. We'll play a5, I think, directly challenging the pawn. They could just play c3, but that seems to weaken these squares a little too much, in my opinion, to the point that I might even just have a sort of blatant sacrifice on c5 to force mate on b3. They're down to 36 seconds as well. Oh, they push right past. Okay, I think knight c5 is still the precise move here. Again, I'm not totally sure how this checkmate actually materializes. I assume I have to get this knight into the position at some point. Not really sure if that's the correct route though. I mean, they have 15 seconds. We're approaching the point where I can probably play just about anything and get mate. Actually, I've just realized I'm threatening to take and then mate on b3. That's the other thing. You have to constantly be watching for tactics. Yeah, we had a little remove the guard tactic there that I completely missed until the very end. We do get offered a rematch, which of course I'm going to accept. 1, because we get the white pieces, 2, because I'm on the high of having just crossed 2000, and 3, because we need as many games as we can get. That e4 idea seemed to work out in our favor. I'm not sure that it concretely made a huge difference, but I liked it, so I'm going to play into it again. How about knight to e3? And we do get knight to b5. We'll go ahead and just meet fire with fire. If they take on a3, then I'll take on h6, except I'm actually threatening checkmate. But because of the knights that they've elected to develop, they would not be defending it. it, even though we would be. I guess they could just play knight to d6 though, but then we have like knight to h4. I don't know, it's not really that big of a threat to the opponent, but it's enough that it's at least pesky. I mean, maybe even like knight to e5, where they can't trade off, a terrible arrow, where they can't trade off because I take back with the pawn and boot the knight that defends f7, so that I'm staring right at it. We get, e6 is kind of unorthodox. We're still gonna threaten mate anyways. Okay, and we're gonna get knight to d8 anyways. Now the question is, which one of these is best? I assume knight to e5 is almost always going to be better because it directly threatens f7, but also threatens g6. So there is the potential for two different ways of mating as opposed to just one. I'm going to assume that one of these two knight moves is basically forced. I don't think they have an option here. Yeah, they elect to move actually the forefront knight backwards, which is interesting because now there's no attack for certain, but how do I actually apply more pressure to the position? How is knight to c4? I mean, they can't actually take because the knight to f7 works all of a sudden. It feels like I'm a little bit overextended. I have these three knights. They are attacking. They're a little bit hard to get rid of, but these guys are at least 2 tempo behind. Yeah, we do get pawn to b5, which begs the question, what on earth did you think you were doing with the knight there? I guess I should just trade it off, and now there's no backup to this knight, so if I can remove it once more, then it's actually made on f7. Let's go ahead and continue developing. I always have knight to e3 to defend c2, and I don't think the opponent has any other threats. I mean, I'm even looking at like f5 ideas with knight to f4, possibly sacrificing for mate by like taking on f7 and then taking on g6, which I think is sound, right? Because if you have two attackers on g6, it doesn't work initially because the opponent also has two defenders, but you have this easy peasy knight sacrifice with tempo on the king. Ooh, we get f6. Interesting. So obviously uprooting the knight on e5. Is there anything I can actually do about that? I don't think there is. I think I just have to go back and then reroute to h4 to continue applying pressure on g6, which is okay. I mean, I'd still have pressure on g6 and on f7, but it's way less strong than it was a moment ago. We get pawn to c4. Interesting. Let's go knight to c5. I mean, I know they're threatening all of these captures, but I have to play this aggressively or else I'm going to lose all momentum in the attack and hand over the initiative to the opponent. Okay, they take back. What about knight to h4? Opponent takes. I take on d7. Does that work? It feels like it works. I hope it works. How's that? How's that? I hope it works. Hope chest. Let's go. Straight hope chest to the gullet. Hands together praying that this works. I think it does. I think it's concrete. I only see one knight defending g6. I don't see a clear avenue for another knight to get on a defensive square. I don't see a clear way for a knight to defend the knight on f8. And I don't think the single pawn attack is going to be fast enough to mate us before we mate them. So I'm actually pretty confident here that this is already forced winning. The opponent has 34 seconds to prove otherwise, but I think we've managed to bamboozle them. I think they've officially been bamboozled. I think they've officially been cross-derbied. I think the game is pretty much over. Yeah, they have 13 seconds left. We'll see if they throw a Hail Mary move right at the end. Right, they do take on c2. I think I can still sacrifice on d7. They promote to a knight. Oh wait, they're threatening mate here. Oh no, I've been bamboozled. Wait, how do I stop this? Oh no, I didn't realize that they were going to mate me. Wow, I guess I have to retreat. Well, that didn't work out like I wanted it to. Okay, let's try e5. I'm not even sure that I calculated anything there. I'm just kind of throwing pieces in their general direction. Oh, there's two knights on b3 now. Oh goodness, I don't think I can do anything about that. Oh, and I flag as well, but I'm pretty sure that was lost anyways. Wow, I lose 50 points of rating. That is so bad. They do offer a rematch. Okay, it's time to lock in. I got way overconfident right at the end there and paid dearly for it. So let's focus up on this round. We'll play d5 again. I still think that's concrete, even though it feels a little bit slow. Yeah, we get knight to g4 again. We'll continue developing. There's no point in rushing. This did work last time, so I have no reason to think that it won't work again. Wow, getting knocked down 50 points for one mistake is huge. So I have to be really careful here not to lose any more games unnecessarily. Yeah, we'll drop back and defend f7 again. Knight to g4. We'll go ahead and take and threaten mate. Knight to e3. If I push, there's knight to e5. If I take, they take, and that is checkmate. So I guess f6 is kind of forced here. I have to boot them from the position. I'm also going to lean into playing a little bit faster, because if I can get my opponent in the groove of playing faster moves, there's a chance that they miscalculate. Right, the knight does move back, so d4, trying to boot this knight to mate on c2. Okay, we get knight back to e1. We've at least won a knight, which has to be progress of some species. Now we just have to continue to apply pressure. So we'll play c4. We get b4 in response, which is fair. I'm not even looking for anything specific. I'm just looking to disrupt their kingside pawn structure, so it's a little bit easier down the line to deliver mate. So for example, now I have knight c6, knight b4 with immediate checkmating ideas. Right, we get a knight moving back. We'll start making progress in this direction. So their kingside attack has now been reduced to 1 knight, which is surprisingly effective because this guy's still stuck, which means if this knight ever wants to escape, it has to do so through c7, which is not the end of the world, but it's not ideal either. Okay, we get pawn to c3, stopping this entrance. Let's bring another knight into the mix, perhaps. Let's do this knight. I feel like he's not as crucial as the others. Right, we get knight to e4. Oh, trying to displace this knight and mate on f7. Oh, that's kind of annoying. Okay, I guess knight to b5. We can replace this knight if it does get captured. We get g4. Okay, I'm going to force this trade to happen because I think if I can get this trade, I'm in a better position because they would only have 1 attacking knight and the rest of these guys are stuck. This one would be stuck defending my knight on a3, and this one simply doesn't have anywhere to go because of the pawn structure, which would not be the case for me. I would actually still have some mobility in the position. So by playing knight to d8, I do force them to address this tension in the center. They could just move the knight out of the way. Ooh, pawn to f5. No way that works. Does that actually work? Just a free knight? I can't imagine it does. I'm gonna go ahead and take, because the problem is these 2 pieces alone can't possibly mate me. Knight to f7 would just lead to a trade and the pawn is stuck right before promotion. Right, they do take anyways, but surely there's some sort of mating idea here. And to be frank, even if there isn't a mating idea over here to be concerned about. To the point, I might even just leave that pawn there so they can never mate me on g6. So what am I going to do? Let's focus on our checkmate. I guess I can just start by taking this pawn, and the sort of long-term plan there would be knight to d2 and then sacking on e2 to get knight b3 mate. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, possibly even a faster one, but I don't think the opponent has enough time on the clock to address this one in the first place. We get knight to f5, still not threatening mate. Let's go knight to d2. Knight takes e7. I do think we just have the sacrifice, and then there's forced mate on b3. Yeah, we get knight back. Again, there's still no mating idea, so I'm going to go ahead and take, and mate is inevitable on b3. Yeah, they set up the same structure again, but we do get checkmate. We'll see if they want a rematch, because I did gain 23 points of rating. Yeah, they do want a rematch. We'll see if we can justify getting the white pieces this time. We'll play e4. We'll go with a very similar setup. Let's continue with developing these pieces. I don't think it particularly matters the order that we do it in. We get knight to b5. Okay, we're going to enter pretty much the exact same setup, and hopefully this time we can we can prove that getting the white pieces actually served us some sort of purpose. So we are threatening mate in 1. The knight does go back. Let's go knight to g5 this time, right? Because last time knight to d6 didn't work because of e5. But if I put my own knight on e5, then I can't actually displace it. So knight to g5 might even be a little more sound, right? Knight to d6 is the only way to stop that. So you'd think e5 is a huge problem, right? Okay, at least now we're up a knight. This is way better than the last game that we played, or rather the last game with the white pieces that we played. The knight does take back, so we're not actually mating them, but the pressure here is significantly more concrete than the previous game that we had with the white pieces. We do get knight to e6, looking to displace the knight on g5. I don't believe a sacrifice here works, because after knight to e5, you just get traded off. So maybe I will just take the knight. Ooh, they take back with a knight of their own. So knight to e5 invigorates that pressure again. Knight to d8 is forced. Now, how to follow up exactly? I mean, we can't actually get booted because we have knight g6, which also sort of welcomes the idea of potentially sacrificing on g6 to get mate. The problem is actually coordinating that idea, right? And we can't actually move this knight because it does a lot of heavy lifting defending c2. So maybe we just develop this knight to c3, looking for d5, looking for e7. I'm honestly a little concerned because it feels really slow, and it's possible that a pawn push there was a little more efficient, but it kind of just feels like, I don't know, maybe it just simply was more efficient. Yeah, we're not going to get gotcha'd with the same idea. c4 comes into play. Let's go b4 this time, with the idea that if we get a5, we do what they did to us, basically. We trade it off, and at the end of that trade, the tempo comes back to us. So we have the option to play knight to d5 once more. Yeah, we do get a5, but now when we take, the opponent will, oh, okay, b4, or rather b5 works as well, but now we have knight to d5. We're not going to get distracted by the same idea as last time. The idea here is very clear. We play knight takes e7, and then after knight g6, which is check, and that's very important, we would get the checkmate. We get pawn to c3 by the opponent. We simply take, completely ignore what's going on over here. We have to stay ahead with the tempo. We do get knight takes, and then we can sacrifice on g6 for mate. Once more, give me a rematch. They do accept it. Okay. We might actually just crawl our way back past 2000 by getting rematches. Ooh, they play e4 this time. They are definitely adapting. We'll play d5, go ahead and take back with our own knight. I don't actually know how this is going to change the position. I think taking is best here, simply because it gives us the tempo right back. We'll play knight d6, and I guess now that the e pawn is gone, playing for the d4 square makes some decent sense. They play knight to f3, which stops that squarely upon the beginning of dead in its tracks. We get knight to f3, knight to e6. We double double down on the idea. Ooh, c3 is really amusing because you'd think that weakens b3 perhaps a little too much, but it's going to come down to whether or not we can actually capitalize on it. We get knight to g4, targets h6, but doesn't actually threaten mate, so I'm just going to take on a4. Ooh, knight to e5. Okay, the opponent is going going big or going home in this game 100%, so they want to take and then threaten mate. I think I pretty much have to take back. Knight takes, and what about knight to d8? I don't know if that's just severely passive. I mean, we're already defended, really, so maybe I just continue taking back. I guess that it looks okay to me. I don't know. f5 is kind of making me quake in my boots a little bit, but we'll see if the opponent actually intends to play that. No, they play knight g4. Okay, they're looking to double up on f7, and frankly, I don't think I can do anything about that, besides, obviously, play more defensively. So how's this? We'll play knight to c7 with the idea that should they take, we play knight to d8. It's very fragile, it's very rickety, but we hold on to f7, and in the long term, we do have knight b5, knight a3, knight c2, which could eventually be checkmate. Again, it's a little bit questionable. It's probably, okay. Oh no, they sacrificed for mate on g6. I completely forgot that was even an idea. Oh my goodness, we will offer them the rematch, but they have no reason to accept now that they've knocked us down another 50 points of rating. So we'll go ahead and queue up for another game as well. Wow, very nice find by the opponent. I didn't even consider that sacrifice. I'm trying to think what I could have done better there. I don't really know, to be honest. What did I have here? Oh, we don't get a chance to see it because they do accept the rematch. Okay, we'll go ahead and take a free pawn and then just develop our pieces. I think that makes sense. Go ahead and develop this way. We do get e6. Okay, I don't know why they're playing this way all of a sudden. I'm going to assume it's part of their strategy somehow. Knight develops, we'll meet them with the same thing. Looking to take on h6 and mate on f7. Knight to d4. I mean, there's not enough firepower here to actually get checkmate. We do have all of these knights defending still. Knight to d6 comes in to defend f7. What are the odds I can gotcha them with the same idea that they got me with? What are the odds? I don't even know how I'd go about that though. I guess it would start with knight to g4 or maybe knight to c4. Yeah, that's a little bit more pressing because then we have the recapture. I don't know. Maybe is it pressing? I don't know. They could just take and completely ignore it because they have mate on c2, but then I have knight to e3 and suddenly that reinvigorates this attack. Knight does go back to f5. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and just take with the idea of replacing this knight attacking on f7 with this knight attacking on f7. They do take back. We reinvigorate the attack on f7, this time with a single knight. Yeah, and now we probably have to look for something like this to actually make this attack worthwhile. So we'll go knight to f3. It's worth noting nobody's looking at c2 anymore, so they could take here with tempo, and knight to e3 would be forced. Ooh, knight to d4 is really interesting. Kind of forces that trade, so I will lean into it, but now it's going to be hard to defend c2. Let's continue developing. Now there's knight to e1 as well with the same defensive idea, and then eventually I'd like to get like something like this on the board. I don't know if that's abysmally slow though. Knight to b5. Okay, what about knight to e4? Should they take? I go back, and then how do you continue defending f7 is my question. I'm going to try to make the argument that you can't, at least not if you take here. We'll play knight to e1, so we're defended again. If they move the knight back, I suppose knight to g5 should be instantly winning because there's no way to defend f7 more times than that. So I think we've managed to finesse the position. Now, the last time I said that, I got destroyed by a surprise move that I did not calculate. So I won't say it again, but I think we have something good going here. Right, knight to d7, and we do run away with the checkmate. We'll go ahead and line up for another game. Oh, they do offer a rematch. Okay, let's do it. e4 is now the starting move. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's go knight c7, and this time I'm going to waste no time in lining up my mating threat. I just need it on the board, ready to go, no questions asked. Especially if they're going to play this every time, I'd rather just have the mating threat, you know, locked and loaded pretty much. We get knight to e3 this time. Now knight to c6. We need to be the ones creating the threats in this game. Otherwise, I'm going to get bamboozled again, and I'm going to drop under 1900 at this rate. We get knight to e5. Threatens mate right away. I think I can just take. I really do. I could also just play knight d6, defending it, and then follow up with knight to b4 anyways. Now, my problem with taking... What is my problem with taking? That they would take back and it's hard to develop my pieces? I think that's my problem. So I'll go knight to d6. They take, and then I take back with the pawn. Is that really the best that I can do? I don't know. I think it's okay. We'll go knight to d6. As much as I'd love to double my opponent's pawns, I don't really like the idea of that single e5 pawn halting the development of two of my knights, especially two of the knights that crucially defend f7. Ooh, knight to g4. Wait, knight to b4 now? How do you defend c2 twice? I don't think you can. Wait, is that already winning? I think that might genuinely be already winning. I don't even think there's a way to sacrifice to defend that twice. Either I'm completely missing something or this is already mate. I hope I'm not missing something, but I think knight d4 is already winning. Please let it already be winning. I need more victories. I also need to brute force calculate a little bit more. I've been playing this a little bit willy-nilly. That's how I ended up getting totally danced on with that sacrifice. Actually, it was a sacrifice on f7 to get to g6. Ooh, knight to c4 does allow me to take and then grab mate on c2. Okay, we'll line up again for another game. We'll offer a rematch in case they want it. Of course they do. They're ready for the smoke. They are ready to rock and roll again. We're gonna do the exact same number until they start playing h5 and stopping this idea. We're gonna keep setting it up exactly the same. We do get knight to d6, which does defend that idea. What did I play last time that was so amazing? Knight to f3. That was my amazing move, I'm pretty sure. Ooh, f6 so early. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Because it weakens g6. Now, the thing is, I don't have a way to apply immediate pressure to g6. I mean, I guess I have f5, but it's not like there's a follow-up to that. So where to now? Let's go knight to e3 and eventually knight to h4 looking for f5. We get c4. I'd really like to not get mated with the exact same idea as last time. But what do I actually do about this? I guess I could just wait and take back. That makes b3 super weak though. b4 somehow just seems a lot better. a5 I just take, b5, and I'd be willing to bet I'm probably a little bit faster. Actually, I don't even have to take back, right? If a5, I can just wait around. Should they take, I take back. They do go for this pawn on a3. I'm not going to waste a tempo defending it. Instead, let's go knight to h4 right now. Okay, we get knight to e4. Ooh, which is, very interesting, right? That was one of the defending knights of f7. So either they don't consider our attack very serious anymore, or they think lining up their counterattack is really important here. Is there any way I can just punish that? I mean, you'd think I could just take here on d5. Should they take back, I just sort of replace one knight with the other defending c2, and the threat is e7, g6. I think that's viable. I really do. I'm gonna go ahead and lean into it and see what happens. Okay, the knight does take, which makes sense. We'll go ahead and defend with knight to e3. Okay, we've managed to do something of value because the opponent's time has now evened out with ours. I think we've just managed to get a little too far into the position. I mean, there might still be a way. They might just be lining up an incredible bamboozle, but I think we've made our way far enough in the position that we might just be winning. There's g5 now. I guess we might as well start by taking. They do take back right away. Oh, we're down to 17 seconds. Holy smokes. Knight back, rerouting to f7 again. Wow, we're really low on time. Holy smokes, I need to focus up. Oh no, I get mated on c2. Holy smokes. Dang, this guy is good. He gets me so good right at that time scramble. I got totally bamboozled there at the end. Holy smokes. Okay, I will insist. I know I'm probably very close to just being tilted and not necessarily playing very good chess anymore, but I'm ready for the crash out. I think it's overdue at this point. If the opponent's goal in any way, shape, or form was to tilt me as a player, they've done so extremely successfully. I welcome it with open arms. Okay, pawn to e5. Continue to just kind of walk into the position. Right, the knight comes into play. I guess knight to e6, and then we replace this. I think I should stop moving this knight. This knight always ends up coming back or having to get replaced by the knight on c8, who I would much rather be in the game actually attacking. So maybe I need to adjust my strategy. And this knight actually needs to stay on d8 from the get-go. Knight to d5. Wait, isn't this just mate? I'm gonna be totally honest, I almost missed that completely. Okay, f4 this. We go directly for the attack, and I think this time I'm not even gonna move my knight on e1. I think I might just leave him there for a hot second and try to find my attack with any of the other knights. So I guess this one is fine to move. This is gonna be my new strategy for a second. Knight to g4, just try to reroute these pieces and force an attack on these pawns. Leave this guy on e1 and this guy on b3 purely as defensive pieces. I'm going to assign them no other job than to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Knight to c6, we're getting a little bit. f7 is weak. It definitely is. e4, how's that? Knight to d4, looking to mate on c2, which I guess forces my hand with knight to e3. I'd like to get e5 on the board as soon as possible, because it would allow me a very clear avenue to actually continue my attack. Whereas at the moment with the pawn on f6, that's pretty much impossible. Knight to e6, nobody's looking at g6 now, so e5 I think is sound. Knight goes back, so we've at least won a knight, which is progress of some kind, I'd imagine. Now, knight to c4, looking for knight f7 if we get captured. This knight still looks at c2. Yeah, I think I was wasting a lot of tempo in the beginning, moving these knights around for no reason. Now they're playing defensive again, which is good. I think I have forced mate here. I don't see a way to defend g6, so I'm going to play knight to e5 and threaten that square. We'll go ahead and pre-move the recapture as well. Yeah, there's no way there's a knight that can get to g6 in time. Okay, so we have this new strategy, which is develop the corner knight and drop it on h6 as fast as humanly possible. Leave the knight on e1 and the knight on c3 to hang out and just play defensively. And then besides that, you can do whatever you need with the knight on d1 and the knight on f1 to launch a successful attack. How long that strategy is going to work for, I could not tell you. Your guess is as good as mine. But for the time being, it's saving us a lot of time. It's allowing us to calculate later in the game. And that's also something that I have to be aware of, is not falling so far behind on time that I get to an end game where I just get bamboozled. Because they're definitely a tactician of some kind. They're playing very sharp and it's extremely effective. They do go for the sack. We'll go ahead and just take back. Yeah, knight to c4 and we have mate on g6. We'll go ahead and play again, offer a rematch. Of course they accept. Maybe they're tilting. That would be a grand honor to be the one who... they finally play a4, b5. We insist. It is our absolute pleasure to... Okay, they just take back and there's no way to continue there. But we can play this knight out, right? These are the two defensive knights. In fact, I'm going to keep them highlighted so there is no confusion. Those are the two defensive knights. Knight defends this pawn, but I can still go into a3 anyways. I'm literally going to keep them highlighted. I don't know if that's fair play necessarily, but I will keep them highlighted so there's no way I can get confused. Knight to e3. Now what? Valid question. Knight to e6, looking for knight d4, pressure on c2. Ooh, knight goes back, so we must be doing something right. Let's go knight to d6. It's not a very precise move, it's really just a developing move. Again, I just want to keep these two knights behind. They'll be sort of my defense. Ooh, wait a minute, hold on. They're sacrificing ideas on c2 if I can just get a knight there. Go knight d4, let's see what happens. If they do take, I will take back. Displaces this knight. It's not winning, but it's pressure. But if they don't do anything, okay, I was gonna say there's knight takes, or rather this knight takes and then mate on b3. But they do see that. I mean, it was their own tactic. Ooh, e5, inviting me into a game of captures. I'm going to, I think, cordially decline and just centralize my knight instead, with the idea that if I take on d2, suddenly there's that mating idea again by sacking on c2. Knight goes back. Okay, they're not going to let me mate them that easily. I think it might finally be time to start playing with my other knights. This is the crucial one, defending f7 because of this knight on h6 move. Ooh, but they move this knight back too. Okay, we're definitely making progress here. Knight c5. There are still very tricky ideas. Go ahead and pre-move the recapture as well. Right, they do take. We'll go ahead and take back. And how do you stop this? Knight to d3 is not going to cut it. We have check, and then knight b3 is mate. Okay, I think we might have finally figured out this opponent. We'll hit play again, as well as rematch. We'll see if they are willing to play. We've at least evened out our rating. We have a concrete strategy, and we do get another game. All right, f4 is the move. Knight f2 is the move. We'll see if they play h5 again. No, they lean into it. Again, I'm not going to move these two knights. I'm going to take, and the rest of my attack will be somehow with the other pieces. I guess this knight here is fine, because this knight can come out through f2 at any time. Knight to a3, again, I don't think I really care. Free pawn on d5, don't mind if I do. That's one less pawn that can boot my knights later. And I do think paying attention to the pawns is very important here, because they do eventually cause tempo to alternate between players and can obviously boot the knight. So pay attention to the pawn. If there's any hope, it lays in the proles. We get knight back to c8. I love 1984, by the way, if you want to drop a 1984 quote that you think is relevant or completely irrelevant. I generally my favorite book. We get knight to c8. How do I continue this attack? There's no need to overcomplicate, right? Knight to e3, I just sort of develop. Knight to f6, allows this. I guess we can lean into a trade here. We'll go ahead and take, and we'll go knight g4, threatening a free pawn, threatening knight to e5 if pawn pushes. Knight to e6 totally ignores knight takes f6 because it doesn't really set up an attack right away. And they do have knight to d4 as well. I guess we should probably take a tempo and play e3 to stop that idea. I mean, they still have like c4, which is kind of pesky. They take on a3 right away. Let's go ahead and take on f6. We get c4. Okay, it's going to be an arms race now. I'm actually going to start with b4 and then ignore this pawn moving forward. So knight d7, should they take knight e5? And how do you stop me from sacrificing and then mating you? I guess knight to f8, but I'm willing to sack the pawn. Well, am I? No, I'm going to take first. If they play b5, then I'm willing to ignore and continue with my own attack. Knight to c5, I don't actually think creates any new threats. I mean, it stops knight to d7, but knight to g4 still works, right? Because we have this knight looking at b3, so it's not like they can sack and then mate us on b3. I'm down to a minute though. This is where I start to get in trouble. Let me focus here. Oh, I flagged. Oh, I spent too much time calculating. Oh my goodness. I was thinking of taking on b6 and maybe knight to g4. I just ran too low on time. Wow, timing out on in this variant is very, very frustrating. Wow, I should have just made any move. I think I might have just messed it up with e6. I overextended when really the position didn't call for that. Go ahead and line up for another game. I mean, the punishment of losing 40 points for a single game is excruciating. All right, we get paired up with a brand new opponent. Probably the best thing for us, considering I was 100% ready to completely tilt out. Ooh, free knights? I don't think we're gonna get that much rating from this game, but I don't mind it at the same time. We get knight to c6. This is probably really, really lazy, but I think I can just go back. And now that I'm up a knight, there should be a relatively straightforward way to kind of force mate on the opponent, because the knights generally do a really good job of balancing each other out. But if you're just gonna be up a piece, I think I should be able to kind of brute force this victory. Let's go knight to e3. Again, I mean, I'm not going to abandon my new strategy of the knight on e1 and the knight on c1 sort of sitting it out. We get knight to d6. So I'm just going to continue with, you know, knight to e5. The idea of sacrificing knight g6 is still checkmate. I will say I really like the opponent's profile picture. They definitely are a fan of mini house. We get knight to e4. Doesn't create any new threats, so knight to e5 should just be a forced victory. We have this reoccurring tactic of knight f7, knight g6, which would be mate on the opponent's king. Right, the knight goes back, but we do have the sacrifice now, and we'll go ahead and pre-move the mate as well. We'll go ahead and line up for a new game. Good game to the opponent. How much rating did we gain? Yeah, we gained 3.7, about 4 points of rating. On the bright side, you know what they say, diamond sharpens diamond, so getting absolutely steamrolled, to be totally frank, by the 1800 that we played was probably for the better. We get paired again, also with a brand new opponent. We can pretty much pre-move the opening at this point. I feel very fresh, although a little bit tilted. I will not deny, part of me playing a little bit faster is the tilt, but I do feel fresh and ready to go after getting smacked around by LD a couple of times. We get pawn to d4. I think I'm going to allow them to take. I probably will just take back, but I'd like to, well, mate, should I take back? I could just go ahead and threaten mate right now. They have to do something about it anyways, and then I can take back. Knight to d4 allows me to boot the knight by taking back. These aren't super deep calculations, but they do feel a little bit more crisp after suffering at the hands of LD. LD, if you are watching this, great games. I appreciate you giving me a good a good whooping. So I'm fresh for these upcoming games. We shouldn't gain that much rating from this one either, but I'm glad that we do have this new strategy of keeping these two knights at home base and basically following up with pressure just about anywhere else. I guess I can just play a5. The knight does take. We're just up so much material now that there basically has to be a victory here somewhere. Yeah. g4. We'll play knight d6. Even when you're completely winning, I learned from LD there's literally zero reason to move these knights at any point in the game. Even if you feel like you're completely winning, just continue with the same strategy. It's just the safest way to play this out to the end. You could say this is me being very responsible and learning from my mistakes. You could also say I'm just traumatized, which would not be, which I think would be just as well. We do get the resignation, and we'll jump right into the next game. I will say the caffeine from the beginning of this episode, I've been working my way through a ghost. Still not sponsored by any of these energy drinks. I mean, why would they? I advertise them for free, but the caffeine from that energy drink is definitely kicking in. I might have to play some Bullet after this. I've been basically peak camping at 2400 for a hot second now. I hit 2400 and then I play and then I crash down to my true rating of about 2350, and then I keep playing until I sort of eke my way right back over 2400, and then I peak there for a little bit. I just camp out for like a week, and then I come back, crash down to 2360 or whatever, and then that process sort of repeats. I mean, eventually, I suppose if I keep doing that, eventually my true rating will be 2400, and then maybe I can camp out a little bit higher. Ooh, we get paired with a 1700. Let's go. We have some actual opportunity to make some rating gains now. We get g4 as the first move, which is super amusing. We have not seen that thus far. We'll go for the exact same idea as before. They do dodge with the pawn. We set up that attack on c2. Pawn to e4, and we'll bring out a different knight. I guess I kind of just walked into e5 there, but the opponent didn't do anything about it, so I guess we're still okay. We get pawn to c3. Very interesting. What about b5? Targeting a4. This is like a little invitation to start an attack, and we will cordially accept. So we get knight to c2. I don't think I really have a choice here but to take. So I will lean into it and capture on c2. The attack has now whittled down quite a bit, but on the bright side, they only have one attacking knight, so I guess by sort of just bringing my knight knight back into the position, the attack comes to life a little bit. Yeah, we get d3, which kind of just just a kick in the butt. Get out of here. We'll play knight d2, try to lean into it as much as possible. If they eventually do force us to trade it off, then it is what it is. But if they can't find a way to do that, then we have this sort of eternal pressure on b3. We get pawn to f5. I think I'm going to play d5. I want to try to open up the position and get more pieces into the attack. And that's never going to happen if I allow this pawn chain to sort of hang out in the middle of the board. So we do get the chance to take back. Again, I'm still camping out with the exact same two pieces that I said I would. I suppose I can take here on d4. Knight takes back, sure. There's no attack for me here. There's no interesting idea. I'm skeptical. How's knight to f4? Looking for knight d3 and then knight b3 eventually. I guess this knight also looks at it, so just displacing the knight on c1 isn't enough. Yeah, and we get knight to f2. This is very awkward for me to follow through on. I guess I could move the knight back and target c3 now. The problem is I don't really know what I'm looking for here. And I feel like if I move around aimlessly for too long, I probably will walk into trouble, right? So we get knight to e4. I wish I could keep this knight here and maybe justify knight to c4. The opponent asks, how do I have a rating in this? I've never played before. I'm too low on time to respond right now, but I'm pretty sure the answer to that is that ratings are combined. Let's play g5. I'm gonna answer now. I believe ratings are combined between variants. Okay, we get knight to d3. How's knight to e3? Right, looking at c2. They say, yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's why. We get knight to e5. I don't really know how to follow up on this. I mean, the opponent has complete control over the center. Maybe e6? If I can replace the knight on d4, then I have knight c2 mate right away. Pawn to c4. Okay. How about f6 now? I might be getting carried away, but oh wait, that's just free. Oh, that's so bad. I've just given away a pawn for no reason. Yeah, there's zero follow-up to that. That is literally just a free pawn. The opponent is calculating it. Yeah, they do take. I guess we'll take. They do just take back right away. Ooh, that was really bad. The only hope here now is to bamboozle the opponent somehow. The odds of that seem slim. Yeah, and we have 15 seconds left as well. Oh god, I don't think there's anything for me to do here. 9 seconds? What am I supposed to do in 9 seconds? He says, wow, Zugzwang. It is. Yeah, he's got me pretty good here. Doesn't mean I won't try to play for tricks, but I don't think there's really much for me to do. Try g4 on for size. They do just take back. Wow, there's really nothing for me here at all, is there? Knight d1? I really don't know. Yeah, and they have knight on g6, which is mate. I'm gonna say GG's in chat since we did talk. And resign. Wow, that is heartbreaking. We lose another 44 points. Oh, I don't really want a rematch. I'm gonna go ahead and play again. I mean, if they want a rematch, I'll definitely accept it. What did I actually do wrong in that game? Oh yeah, it was definitely f6, and also g5 I don't think was necessary here. I should have just played knight to e3 right away, yeah. g5 here was totally useless. Knight to e3 right away, have to keep the pressure of checkmate on the board, because I just started inventing moves. And then f6 eventually did me in. So yeah, knight to e3 from the get-go was necessary, and then fighting to get that knight off d4, which actually was possible with knight c6, but I allowed knight to e5. Okay, I think as long as I keep learning from each game, so far we've established an opening of some kind, and we've also now learned that keeping mate on the board 100% of the time is very necessary, or else to allow the opponent to improve their position in ways you don't even realize are happening. All right, we get paired up again. I just noticed we're almost at 103k subs, which is really, really cool. I do appreciate you guys subscribing. We get pawn to g5. Let's just continue with our attack. I am booted down now to a 916 rating, which is not ideal, but it's part of the learning process. Sometimes you've got to have a down before you can have a upswing. We do get a capture. Do I take back right away? I think I ignore it. No, let's go ahead and take. We can always bring a different knight to g4 and then eventually h6. We do get pawn to d5, super aggressive. We'll drop the knight back. And again, we're going to try to just play with these knights. And our biggest focus is always having some sort of mating threat on the board. We get knight to g6. We'll target this pawn right away. So we at least have f7 on the table. And now we have a mating threat to actually work around. The knight does take on h3. We are actually down a pawn. I don't really think it matters all that much at the moment. I think what mostly matters is that we have a mating threat. So now the question is, how do we actually double and triple down on that attack? Get pawn to e6. I think knight to g4 makes perfect sense. Looking for knight to e5. You're threatening mate on f7, threatening mate on g6 as well. Ooh, knight to f2 is actually free, but taking the knight I don't actually think is the best move, right? Just knight to e5 immediately threatens mate. There's no way to stop both of them, and I think with that we've already won the game. Yeah, knight to c6, knight to g6 is mate, and we'll go ahead and queue up for another game right away, and we do get paired. Oh, okay, with the exact exact same opponent. Understood. How much rating did we gain? 5 points. Not enough for a sustainable climb, but any rating is good rating. We'll go ahead and take back. We'll probably look for D5 again. Yeah, D5 again should be totally fine. As long as the opponent wants to engage on this side of the board, I am totally game for that. I'll just keep these knights here. That is a free knight, unfortunately, on A6. I'm willing to bet that I could reroute and mate on B3. Yeah, there's no way to stop that. And we do grab another mate. We'll go ahead and line up for another game. And they are ready to go. Absolutely no in-between time. Just queue up and playing a game right away. We'll go ahead and pre-move the recapture. They don't take, so we'll threaten H6 instead. They take with the knight. Okay, this feels a little bit like a tilt. I feel like we're watching a tilt in real time because there's no way they just captured that. Okay, they might just be tilting. Oh, am I a bad person for taking advantage of a tilt? Probably. Am I going to do it anyways? Yes. Sorry. I really should just give them a time. They're definitely tilting. Okay, I should, in real life, in the real world, as a good person, I should give them time to recover from the tilt and not feed into it. As someone on a rating climb, though, this is free rating and also part of the game. So I'm going to lean into it and grab all the rating that I can. That's free. Just, oh no, is this how I climb back up to 2K? By taking advantage of a player that is clearly tilting their way through the variant? Oh, this is disgusting. Oh, it's disgusting. They keep playing me though. Who am I to stop them? They want to play chess. I'm just here to offer a game. Okay, we'll see at what point they start trolling us differently because now they're not making a move. Okay, they do play C4. Never mind. They are back in the game right away. Go and pre-move the recapture. They seem to be very capture friendly. Let's play E6 looking for D5. I don't even think I need to be that precise. Yeah, they're just gonna keep giving us free pieces. We'll go ahead and take. They take on C5. I take back. The interesting thing is it doesn't matter how fast I play. As long as those two knights are on the same spot, then there's no way there can be checkmate. We'll take on A3. That is definitely a free knight. And that is a free knight with checkmate. Oh no, this is like the ultimate litmus test. I could just stop. I could at any moment stop, wait for 5 minutes, and odds are they would disappear into the abyss. And then I could get a more concrete game. But I could also not stop. Okay, they do cancel the game and exit the vicinity. I guess that resolves that little part of the video. I mean, I gained some rating. I got like, what, almost 20, more than 20 points of rating? I'll take it. All right, we get paired again, possibly against another new player who does start with B4, again, engaging on their side of the board. It's interesting because the more that I play this, I would argue the better I get, even though we're currently on the come up from a relatively large rating fall. Knight to D3 is interesting, C4. But what I was gonna say is the more I play this, the more videos I make on it equals more players trying it out for the first time, which equals more lower rated players that I can sort of feed off of to gain more rating. Obviously, that's not the reason that I play it. I play it because I genuinely enjoy this variant. And I do think I have some potential to climb maybe even to the top spot in it at some point. But I do think it's kind of interesting how that cycle works. More videos equals more players trying it out, equals more reason for me to play and gain more rating, equals more videos, equals more players, and so on and so forth, which is kind of interesting. I do hope this variant eventually catches on. I mean, it definitely has some sort of player base because I'm not waiting nearly as long between rounds as I did when I first started making videos about this variant. We get knight takes A6. So it obviously has some sort of player base. Oh, I don't want to move that knight. That's right. So let's go here instead. But I don't know. It'd be really cool to get like a very thick and competitive leaderboard and hopefully still be somewhere near the top of it. But that would require that I stay on the, I guess this is possibly a little bit corny sounding, but on the cutting edge of whatever the theory is for this variant, and to also, you know, not miss very silly 1 or 2 move tactics like I did a couple of times already. We get pawn to C4. I think knight B4 here is best. Obviously threatens mate, also kind of obviously defended. But again, I've already learned that just having that pressure of checkmate in general on the board is a good starting point. Ooh, knight to C3 allows check, and we do walk away with mate. Nice. Again, we don't gain that much rating from it, only 4 points, but 4 points is better than no points, so I'll take it. Go ahead and queue up for another game. I mean, at the very least, I'd like to end this game up some amount of rating. I'd much rather end this up a little bit and not, you know, completely down. I think we get paired against the same opponent that was, I believe, crashing out earlier against us. We'll see if this game goes much differently. I'd like to, how about this? If I can get over 2,000, the thing is, if I get over 2,000, odds are I'm going to get that itch to get get over the third place player, which I believe, or rather who I believe is currently rated, I believe 2065, I think is the exact rating. So how about that? I play until I at least get to third place, which I think is doable, at least now that LD has disappeared. Again, not the fairest way to farm rating, but we do get paired against No Name again. Knight to E6, we'll continue with the same strategy. Knight to G4, still setting up the exact same idea with mate on F7. There's literally nothing for me to be concerned about as long as I have those two knights placed on E1 and C1. There simply cannot be a mating threat. And of course, at some point later in the game, I might eventually move them. That is a free knight. Case in point right there. But as a general rule of thumb, I'd rather not. We get knight to E4. Again, probably the lazy way out, but I'm just going to move the knight back before continuing to develop, not that, still not how the knight moves, before continuing to develop the other knights that I would like to get into the game. Knight to C6 allows mate, and we'll go ahead and queue up once more. Uh-oh. How did we get the white pieces twice in a row if we won? That's very interesting. On the bright side, we're almost at 1950. Downside being there's not a lot of pride in the way that I've now achieved this rating. Go ahead and take on H6. The other thing of note being that I don't know if there's actually a bottoming out. To better explain myself, as the opponent loses more rating, I should gain less rating with each game that I win until I'm literally earning some amount of rating per game. I believe, I'm pretty sure, I'm not one to really keep up with FIDE and like USCF and whatnot and like their exact like policy changes and stuff, but I believe it was going around recently, I'm pretty sure I read about this, that they recently changed how the minimum rating increment changes. I think before, I should probably look it up so I'm not just talking out of my butt. Let me play F5 first, looking to remove the knight on D6 and then snag up that mate on F7. Let me look it up right now, actually. I thought it was interesting because there were a lot of people saying that there should be a minimum amount of rating that you win. So for example, I think the specific example that I saw was if Hikaru, for example, plays against an 1800, obviously there's some universe where he actually loses, but like 99.999% of the time, he should win that game. And I think under the previous rules, he would have won a very, very small amount of rating, but under the new rules, he actually wins a rather significant amount of rating. We get knight to C2, we'll play knight C7. Let me look it up. FIDE, minimum rating increase. I think that's enough to get whatever that news article is. We get pawn to D4, let's play, I guess knight to D6 is fine. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, FIDE's new rule is if the rating gap between two players is more than 400, it will still be treated like a 400 point rating gap, meaning that, and the example used here, if a 2800 plays against a 1900, they still gain 0.8 rating points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when your odds of winning are so incredibly high, I mean, I guess that undersells the point that you still have to play some level of chess. There's an investment there. We get knight to C3, but the point is that now if the rating difference is 800, it doesn't matter. If it's 1000, it doesn't matter. You still gain 0.8 rating points. So if a grandmaster goes out and beats 100 of those players, obviously that rating won't be treated with the same amount of respect necessarily, but if you just need a number to qualify for something, you could theoretically do it that way. We get knight to A4. What am I actually looking for here? Knight to E6, I guess, defend C5, maybe knight to D4. So I thought that was very interesting, and what I was going to say is I don't know if the same thing exists for this. We get knight to B6. I guess we can go knight C6 now. I mean, this knight defends F7, so now we can just line up multiple knights on D4 looking for B3 or C2. But what I was going to say is, as I continue to win more of these games, I don't know if there's eventually a point where, say, No Name drops down to, I don't know, like 1000 or something. Is there a point where I would gain even less and less rating to the point where I'm gaining like half a point of rating? Like right there, I gained 3 points of rating from that game. Does that mean it wasn't worth it? No, of course it was worth it. That means if I play 10 more games, suddenly I'm 2000 again. But I do think it's a point of interest for me. We get knight to D5. We'll go ahead and ignore it, play B5. Should they take, we just take back. If they take on E7, I mean, sure, they can grab the free pawn. We'll grab the free pawn on C4. Knight to B6. Let's go ahead and continue developing. It's been kind of difficult to play with this strategy now that C4 is on the board, right? Because it covers B5. So knight B5 is no longer, oh, there it is. Knight B5 is suddenly possible again. That was nice. We'll go ahead and take. There is knight in C2 though, so the follow-up isn't as clear. I guess knight D4 is probably the best shot there. Okay, we get knight to D3. I guess knight C6. Looking for knight to D4. We have the same sort of idea where the knight on D6 suddenly does the heavy lifting of defending F7. And it's not really like the opponent has a clear way to get to that square anyways. So just continuing the attack is probably enough. Ooh, knight takes allows mate on C2. And again, I'm gaining less and less rating from every game that I play. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think after this one, I'll probably take a step back and allow them to find a different pairing before queuing up again. This time we get c3, an even more enigmatic opening. Yeah, knight to c2. I mean, they're defending a3 from the get-go, which is interesting. Like, they're certainly not, I don't think they're throwing anymore. At least they're not playing as fast as they were before, and I can definitely see the reasoning behind their move. So knight to b5 is still possible, but suddenly not as concrete now that the knight is sort of just sitting there waiting for me to play it. We get knight d3, we'll go ahead and strike in the center. Pawn to f4, sure, we'll develop our pieces. f5, I think, is just free. If we get targeted right after, I kind of just have to move back, which is fine, because we do grab pawn in the process. It's also worth noting that pawns actually promote to knights in this variant. That has not come into play whatsoever, but I thought it was an interesting point, which makes sense. I mean, you can only ever checkmate with a knight. Literally no other piece could ever deliver mate in this sort of configuration. We get knight to f4. Okay, I think now is when we need to start thinking about how we actually deliver checkmate. We'll start with c4. The other thing is, if I lose a single game against this opponent, my rating is going to take a oh wait, did I just miss a free knight? I definitely did. Holy smokes, that's the other thing. I don't think this is good practice for me whatsoever, because I don't feel the pressure of being super sharp and on my toes, and that's not meant to disrespect my opponent in any way, shape, or form, but it is not good practice for me to get this comfortable. We get knight to d4, knight b5, I guess. They take, I take back. I just need to land a knight on c2 as fast as possible. So knight c6, if they take, we take back. Then we have knight e3, knight c2. There's no way to stop that. Yeah, so I'm gonna give them a chance to find a different pairing. We have made our way back up to 1960. I'll go ahead and take a quick break, maybe grab another energy drink. Let them find a different pairing, and we'll be back. Okay, they still haven't gone anywhere, so I'm not really sure what to do. I guess I could just stop playing, but maybe if we queue up now, but we don't accept the rematch, we'll get somebody different. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Okay, we do get somebody different. This is good. 1460. This still won't be like a magical huge rating increase, but it will be a little bit more than 2 point whatever number of rating points we were gaining per game previously. Now I just have to be sharp. I have to make sure I don't fall for anything silly. They're obviously lining up knight to h6. I think I can just take, and I'm threatening mate right away, so they do have to defend that. Right, knight to e3 does exactly that. Now, I guess knight to f6 is, well, let's play knight to d6 right away, so we're immediately defended after knight takes, and then we can think about our next attacking idea. We do get mate on c2. Let's go ahead and line up for our next game. We do only gain 3 points of rating, but I'm happy that we got a different opponent. I don't think dragging that out anymore was necessary. Okay, it seems like we're gonna get this opponent a couple of times in a row now, which is okay. Happy to just play somebody different. We get knight to f6. Let's go knight to c3, and I'd like to get e4 on the board as fast as possible. They're playing almost symmetrically. The difference is their knight on f6 and our knight is on f2. I'm gonna go ahead and take this way, because knight g4 is always an interesting idea if they force me to be the one to capture. They don't, so we do just get the recapture right away, but this knight doesn't have a clear path to either of these squares. Oh, we get booted right away. Interesting. I'll go ahead and move back and go back to the original idea. Again, I'm still playing with that knight on e1, knight on c1 sort of strategy, just hanging out. Oh, he says I watch your vids. Oh, that's so cool. Thanks for watching. Good luck. Little smiley face at the end. Trademark smiley face. We get knight to d4, no new threats, so we'll continue to h6. They do say good luck back. We get knight to f5, knight to e5, threatening f7, knight to d6 stops it right away. Okay, now how do I bring more pressure onto the board? I guess we can start with knight to e3 and trade off this knight. Go ahead and pre-move the recapture. Ooh, knight takes on g3. Interesting, because it allows my knight to get into the game now. But how? I mean, I could just take on d5 too. I guess we'll do that. We'll take on d5, and we can get into the game through e7, targeting g6, which is relatively difficult for the opponent to defend. They get knight to f5, which does cover e7. If I could also just remove this knight, I'd be in a really nice spot. Oh, I can't take on c7. That's defended. I almost took that. Okay, let's go. How about knight to f3? It's a little bit risky, but knight to d4 isn't really possible. So even though c2 is weak, it's covered for the time being. Pawn to b5. Okay, knight to e3, and eventually I'd like to get my knight to h4 and then g6. So they do capture, so nobody's defending h4 anymore, which means in a moment, yeah, we'll have forced mate here on g6. Yeah, knight to d5, we take, and then we have mate on g6 as well. They say that's smart. We'll say good game in chat. Oops, it says goo instead. Good game, and we'll go ahead and line up for another match. Again, we only gain 3 points of rating, and this is now turning into a mega episode, which I have no problem with. Like, genuinely, this is one of the few variants that I can sit down and just play for hours, and I wouldn't feel a thing. As long as I don't tilt. If I tilt, you know, tilting is tilting is tilting. I can't really say more than that about it. But beyond that, I could really sit down and play this all day pretty much. I'm gonna set a time to maybe another 20 minutes of this, so I don't don't just waste away the entire day playing cross derby. I feel like we've made maybe not rating progress per se, but we have made strategical progress. I like the opening that we've sort of developed. It has a little bit more nuance, right? We're thinking about knight to e1 and knight on c1 as key defensive pieces, and pretty much moving them too early is like wasting tempo. Not to mention, it's sort of like an insurance policy. There's genuinely no sacrifice that I can think of other than the opponent somehow just magically spawning 10 different attackers that actually breaks through that structure. So it's a nice little sort of way to not have to even think about that side of your position and just continue playing attacking chess the entire time, which is the second key point that we've learned about, is that it's really important to keep pressure on the opponent. If you sort of let off the gas pedal too much, usually you end up squashed. So we'll wait and see if we can get paired. We do. Nice, 1565. Now we're talking about some rating. I'm a little bit worried that they have literal stockfish and the 17th edition no less as their profile picture, but I'm optimistic, perhaps blindly so. They play the exact same opening we do, which is kind of cool. I don't know if that's their strategy or that's just the opening they play anyways. We get f5 now, so I'm going to assume this is not the opening they play because it's a little bit late once I have my knight on h6 to play f5. I don't know, I could still get totally schooled, but that's my thought process. We get knight to b5. Now I just need to land somebody on e5 and then I'll have pretty good attack going. Let's go knight to c3 and then maybe e4. Yeah, e4 and then knight to e3. I'm gonna keep this exact same structure. I know I've said this a million times. They say hi with a smiley face. Hi, smiley face. But boom. I have said in the past that if you see a smiley face, you know it's me. I guess that's not true anymore, because this opponent also does smiley faces. So it's no longer a unique trait. It's nice to get a smiley face though. So we do continue with e4. That is the attacking idea. Knight to e3 will follow shortly, and the exact follow-up to that I'm not so sure about. But we get knight to d6. I assume booting the knight is in my best interest. We get knight to b5. I guess I can take. Ooh, they take back with the pawn, probably looking to break through on c4. I think unfortunately that opens the door for b4, and there's no way to get rid of that pawn. So you sort of trap your knight on a3, right? Because if you try to get rid of that pawn, you get mated on f7. I mean, there's other ways to do it. I guess like knight c7, knight a6 seems a little bit slow. Oh, they go directly into that. Okay. I do still think it's a little bit slow. I think we are going to get an attack going before that comes to fruition, but we'll have to be a little bit careful about it. We'll go ahead and take back. f5 is the natural follow-up. They're looking for knight to b4. We are sufficiently defended at the moment. Does not mean this is the most comfortable position to play, but I think we should be able to hold tight just fine. We do get knight to b4 again. I think we're holding tight. I think I can even consider knight to d3. I'm gonna go ahead and play that because I'd like to start trading off some of these attacking pieces and alleviating some of the pressure from the position if I can do so safely, which I think I can here. Yeah, so they do take, we take back, of course. We get pawn to c4. Now I'm tempted very much to just ignore this. Is that a safe idea? Probably not. What happens if knight to f4? They'll probably take, I'll take back. And I don't think there's anything there. I think I can just sort of carry on with my original intentions. They ask on video? Yes. Towards the very near end of it, but yes, on video indeed. We do get pawn to g5. They're not going to let us get checkmate that easily, but I think knight g6 and then knight f7 is winning. So we'll play that, right? Because then we have pawn promotion and then knight back to g6. We'll go ahead and pre-move the recapture under the assumption, yeah, they do take, which they do. And now this knight and this pawn do an insane job of holding down the attacking piece. So we do just have check. We'll pre-move the recapture. Surely they play d4, but we're just in time. We promote to a knight, and then knight g6 is in fact checkmate. One tempo ahead of the opponent, so it's not by much, but you never really win these games by much anyways. We do get checkmate, and an okay 5 points of rating. We'll queue up for another game. Go ahead and say GG to the opponent, who was so kind to us. GG. Oh, we get paired with the same opponent. Okay. I'm not at all bothered by this because we do gain 5 points of rating every victory against this specific opponent, thanks to the fact that their rating is actually a little bit higher. We can play symmetrically, that's okay. I like their opening, right? It's precisely mine. So I'm okay. We get c4 again. We'll take. I do think this gives us something to hang on to for our own attack. So we'll play knight to f6 next. Actually, maybe even b5 was appropriate there. I mean, I'm trying to set up d5 and knight to e4. So we will play into that, but b5 is not at all a bad follow-up. Okay, they do take. Of course, I will take back. Now there's knight to b4 ideas. We get knight to d2. Let's continue with knight to b4, setting up a sort of obvious mate that they will almost certainly stop. But again, the pressure is good. Just having more pressure on the position is rarely ever a bad thing in any way. I mean, there can be more precise and less precise ways to set up mate, but in general, I don't think there's ever a reason not to have that extra little tickle on the opponent's position. We do get knight to f3. Now, ideally, I remove one of these knights. It's not clear how I do so, especially not quickly. That is ideally what I muster up here in a moment. Actually, I could just play knight to e6. Oh, wait, no, they have knight to e5, and then I have to move back. I broke my own golden rule. Oh, that's what I get for breaking my own rule. Okay, yeah, knight goes back is forced. And suddenly all three of these knights are actually required to hold on to the position. That's what happens. You break the rule a single time, and you pay for it immediately. Okay, we have to play very precisely now, because the opponent might actually have a very concrete advantage here, especially after something like pawn to f5. Okay, they set it up with g4. That might afford us a little bit of extra time. Let's try f6, booting the knight, and hopefully when we're met with a pawn push, we can meet it with closing the position. If they do the inverse, we meet them with the inverse as well. Knight to d7. That's not free. There's no pressure on g6 at the moment, so I think I can just take that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was just a miscalculation by the opponent. We get g5, which I think means I can just close the position again, and suddenly I'm pretty sure I'm winning now. Yeah, we get h4, which I think is going to be a little bit too slow. We're going to try to beat them to the punch with knight c6, knight d4. Yeah, they have a really interesting idea here, potentially even giving check and trying for promotion. I just don't think it's fast enough. Knight to d4 seems to force mate here on c2. We do get checked. We'll go ahead and take. If they take back, that's totally okay. There's still force mate, and we should walk away with another 5 points here. We do get the resignation and 5 more points of rating. We're currently rated 1977. Let's do one more, and we'll call it a day. I didn't actually make any progress, I don't think. Actually, wait, wasn't I rated 1970 when we started? Okay, we'll play one more, and then we'll check the rating graph and make an informed decision from there. Because I need to go outside and touch grass and do stuff with people, because I've been here for a hot second now. I think we have a long enough episode as it is. It's just the internal feeling of I need to make progress in the episode, or else what's the point? So I need to feed that addiction before I actually call it a day here. Let's get paired up one more time though. We do get paired with the same opponent. We do get f4, we'll play c5, and I think we can play into the exact same line. Ooh, a4. Never mind. We will not be playing into the exact same line. We will be playing something completely different. We'll go ahead and bother this pawn early on, since we're given the opportunity to do so. a5, knight d5 centralizes. c4, now I'm on b4 forever and always, staring down c2, and I just need to bring more people into that, into those dark squares of the opponent to justify the attack. So knight to f5 now, right? Just looking to dump more knights onto those dark squares. Again, I have this eternal sort of defense. Knight to c3, knight d4 now forces somebody to come to e3 and block that. Right, we get knight to e3 to stop that idea. But what about knight d6? Looking for knight to f5, displacing the knight on e3. We get knight takes. Now there's no mating threat, so I can continue here. Oh, they can take with this knight. Oh, probably should have seen that coming. We'll take back with the pawn, I guess. On the bright side, there's no aggressive knight here anymore looking at f7. Downside is that means I have to do a lot of manual calculation to see what actually works. Okay, knight d5. Knight c6 seems to back up everybody and not fall for any silly tricks. The knight does take, sure. We'll take back, and we've sort of recreated the exact same previous position. We get g4. Interesting. What happens if I play knight c6? The idea there is knight takes a5 and then force mate on b3. I don't actually think the opponent can do anything about that. If I play here, well, they might take here with the knight, and then I take, they take back, and suddenly it's not so convincing. Oh, I see what I can do. I can play knight e6 and target e2 to get b3 mate. It's really hard to see how these like spiderweb movements of the knight all sort of interlock, but they do ultimately come together. Right now we have knight takes here. I'm not sure, still not how the knight moves. I'm not sure how the opponent stops knight to b3. And I don't think we're getting mated before they are. Ooh, they offer a draw. Oh, I'm sorry. I think this might be the last game I play, so I would like to walk away with the victory. Not to mention, if I accept a draw offer, my rating will be slashed horrendously. I'm already only gaining about 5 points per game. I'd estimate I'd lose at least 10 if I accepted a draw offer, especially knowing that I'd lose probably close to 40 if I actually lost the game. So I won't accept a draw. I don't know if they're just going to flag because of that. No, we do get the resignation, and we do finish off with 1980 points of rating. Okay, let's see where that actually leaves us on the leaderboard. Okay, if we hop into full screen here for a moment, we can actually see we're rated 2018. Again, I still don't know what rating it is that's picking us up that far, but we're still in 4th place, but we're not that far off from 3rd. I think I'm going to call it there for today's episode. I'm kind of pooped. I've been recording now for 2.5 hours. I don't know how long this episode will actually be for you guys. It'll definitely be more than an hour though. So hopefully plenty of content for you guys to watch or fall asleep to or eat to or whatever it is you guys are doing on the other side of the screen. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I think we learned a couple of concrete things. Our opening is a little more refined. We have some concepts to play with in the future. And I think our chances of getting in the top 3 are a lot more concrete now. Before, it was more loosey loosey-goosey, but I think we're actually playing with some very specific principles now. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. We are almost at 103k, which is absolutely insane. Ever since we crossed 100k, I'm not even sure what the next milestone is. I guess 150, 200k? I don't even know. I'm just grateful to be here, but I will see you guys in the next one.